Hardy Boys are having lunch with their dad's old buddy, Hugh Hunt. Uncle Hugh is a nice, perfectly normal guy who sells insurance. Life insurance, I hope, because he's a cop, he's a spy, all of Dad's friends are cops and spies. I don't know why the Hardys haven't caught on to this yet.
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
In an opening that's oddly reminiscent of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, foreign villains secretly poison Uncle Hugh. There's a big fight sequence in the restaurant, followed by a chase through New York City. It ends with an angry government agent appearing and yelling at the Hardys for ruining the entire plan. Yep, the Hardys have found themselves in the middle of an international spy fight again. We meet Starkey the spy, who's been assigned to the case. Starkey thinks Uncle Hugh is a traitor, a schemer, a criminal who faked his own kidnapping to cover his tracks. The book doesn't say this, but I think what happened is that Uncle Hugh left a huge mess in his office when he quit the spy business, and Starkey had to clean it up. That's why Starkey hates Uncle Hugh so much. Starkey assigns the Hardys to the case because they're the main characters. Because they don't play by the rules. Because that's exactly what you want in an international crime bust. Wild cards who will mess everything up. I can see why Hugh was higher up on the spy ladder than Starkey. This guy isn't the smartest. Frank and Joe go to Uncle Hugh's penthouse in San Francisco. The building is locked, but a hot redhead shows up and keys in the entry code. Frank memorizes the sound the buttons make and uses that to figure out what the code is. Wow, quite the pair of ears on this kid. They catch the redhead red-handed, searching Uncle Hugh's apartment. The Hardys split up at this point. Joe goes after the girl, because he always goes after hot chicks in this series. He chases her all the way to Chinatown, where a gang beats him up. He wakes up tied to a chair. The woman introduces herself as Charity, and she flirts with Joe a lot. I guess Joe is just such a babe magnet, women can't help but hit on him, even during hostage situations. Conveniently, Charity goes outside and leaves Joe unguarded. He escapes, but not before he discovers that Charity's planning to steal a crown from the Carlisle Museum. Frank stays in Uncle Hugh's apartment. Uncle Hugh and his Russian kidnappers appear, and they explain the plot. This makes no sense if you think about it. Why would they spend 5 minutes talking about things they already know? Well, it's lucky for Frank they do recap the plot, because now he knows that the Russians are forcing Uncle Hugh to rob the Carlisle Museum, in exchange for the antidote to the poison. Frank's luck runs out when they find him hiding in the closet. The Russians grab him, and Joe returns just in time to see them stuff Frank into a limo. Joe steals a motorcycle, and he catches up to them at the Golden Gate Bridge. I guess the Russians aren't just culprits, they're also tourists. A big fight ensues, and the Hardys have to jump off the bridge to avoid getting shot. Joe's knocked out by the water. Frank dives a few times, pulls them to the surface, and swims them to safety. Oh, and he stole the Russians' plans for robbing the museum when no one was looking. And Frank did all of this with his hands tied together. He is basically Superman. Starkey the spy picks them up, and he listens to their story for about 5 seconds before deciding he's got enough evidence to prove Uncle Hugh is a Russian spy. Starkey announces that the Hardys have outlived their usefulness, so now he's gonna kill them. Frank asks for some tea as his final request before he gets shot. He throws the water for the tea at the gunman, and they escape. Okay, technically they escape, they get caught, they escape again, and they almost get killed ordering room service, but the bottom line is that they escape. As it turns out, the entire thing is a setup. The Russian spies are really Americans working for Starkey. They're purposely trying to frame Uncle Hugh. The Hardys call the police, and no, wait, that's too easy. Instead, they decide they're gonna steal the crown themselves. They break into the museum, and it's tense and scary while they bypass the security system, only to learn that the system was turned off the entire time. Oops! Starkey tries killing them at the museum, and they're rescued by Charity. She steals the crown, and wait, it's a fake? So she tries killing them with an acid-dripping chandelier. That's a new one. This time, Uncle Hugh saves the Hardys. He examines the fake crown and realizes that Starkey is using the crown to smuggle computer chips. I'm not joking. Starkey hides computer chips in museum pieces, then robs the museums to get the chips. That seems unnecessarily complicated and difficult, but Starkey seems to have a thing for unnecessary complications. It all goes down at the docks, where Starkey trades the crown for the antidote. Starkey tries a double cross, but Frank shows up with Charity's gang and a big fight ensues. As you'd expect, Uncle Hugh gets the antidote, Starkey is arrested, and Charity kisses Joe, promising to see him again soon. Also, she stole the real crown while no one was looking. The end. Post-book follow-up. I'm pretty sure Charity doesn't show up again. Let's just pretend she's Fiona Fox, the cat burglar from the Super Mystery series, okay? That way we can get some continuity. I'm a little curious about the fake Russians who were working for Starkey the whole time. Why did they try so hard to kill the Hardys? I know they didn't want to blow their cover, but their entire plan would have sunk if they did kill Frank or Joe. It's sort of like Frozen, where the culprit goes out of the way to maintain their cover, even though the plan would have been way more successful if they played it straight from the start. Multiple times this book mentions the network. Why didn't Frank and Joe call their professional spy friends to help with this case? The excuse we get is that Starkey works for a totally different spy group, and he hates the network. That's a bad excuse. Frank and Joe don't get backup because a jerk told them not to? And they still refuse to get backup after Starkey tries to kill them? They should have instantly called the network agents once they learned Starkey is the real culprit. Overall, this is a solid book, exactly what I expect from the series. You could say it leans too heavily on escape sequences, but it perfectly fits with the spy genre, with 2 to 3 different groups all chasing after the same thing, and you're not quite sure who is on whose side until the very end. Charity is an interesting character, even if she's little more than a stereotypical femme fatale. I don't see much room for improvement, besides for cleaning up the second chapter a bit. I give Hardy Boys Casefiles number 6, The Crowning Terror, a 9 out of 10.